you know, some people have sent me messages saying that like my music has helped them like get through really tough times, or it saved their life or whatever, and those kind of things are like, I think they're sometimes the fuel you need to really justify the hard work without the financial return.
Carrying the weight, I'm a beast mode, fly like Heathrow, trying to make P on the D-Lo, never wanna B-roll, so I shoot for the free throw, big flow like CeeLo.
I don't consider myself like a political guy or a political rapper or anything like that. I'm someone that just, I don't know, I think with my style I tend to reflect on things that are around me, or things that, you know, often it's like social commentary.
So what's my deal? I just feel hope suffered when I think about the world that my kids will grow up in. Shit, mass media is feeding no substance, and each day the law seems to reason no justice.
It all started like when I was a bit younger, is that frustration and trying to figure out what's really going on, and you know, then you go down these rabbit holes of information, and you know, but I you know, when I was younger I was quite into like watching a lot of conspiracy documentaries and stuff, and then I think when I got a little bit older, in terms of my style, I knew that I didn't really want to be that kind of artist necessarily, like someone that was a bit more heavily on that. So I think I just turned to things that were a little bit more like closer to me, or you know, like personal things or realities I see, and I know frustrations I feel, rather than necessarily quoting a documentary about this.
So my guest today is Parallax. He's a British MC, rapper and producer, and I wanted to interview him because I really enjoy his music. I've been listening to him for the last 6 years or 7 years. He started out with more kind of lyrics, you know, against the system, about ego. He even had an intro with David Icke. One of his very known tracks is called Rat Race, which is talking about greed and how the monetary system operates, all these things. You know, I've been growing up listening to hip hop in the 90s and early 2000s, and so much has changed. We went from this era of real hip hop into mumble rap, and I wanted to have a discussion with someone who is still trying to keep it real as much as possible. Obviously he's been evolving, his style has been evolving. I really think Parallax is extremely talented, and I hope you're gonna enjoy this episode, and make sure to check out Parallax on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, etc. So enjoy this episode of True Fear Podcast with Parallax. All right, so this is Mike Sygula from TrueFear.com, and this is True Fear Podcast episode 11, and my guest today is Parallax. Parallax is a London-based conscious hip-hop artist, MC, and producer. He has shared stages and collaborated with US legends such as Lord Finesse and Rakaa. He has been recognized by the names such as Raekwon from Wu-tang Clan. He's performed internationally as well as in the UK, supporting groups such as Dead Prez. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you bringing me on. Thanks for that.
And I've been keeping an eye on some of your releases over the years. I think like one of the first was Hip Hop Philosophy and Rat Race.
Yeah. It was 2014.
You know, I used to, you know, I was growing up listening to hip hop in the 90s. You know, people like Fugees or Wu-Tang Clan, Nas, Cypress Hill, DMX, Onyx, a lot of these old school groups and rappers. And, you know, I think what you've been doing, obviously your style is evolving, and I see you're experimenting a lot, especially in recent years. But you definitely keep it, you know, old school, real, and especially, you know, lyrics are very different to what we hear today. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about
your story, how you got into hip hop music, and your influences and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, some of the names you mentioned were the kind of same era that I came from. So, I grew up as a kid, starting out listening to legends like Dr. Dre and Tupac, and like having the early tapes, back in the 90s. I had an older brother, so he always got onto these things before me, and then I'd be like, find out, you know, things a little bit earlier because he was a couple of years above. So yeah, it was a good introduction, and yeah, kind of just started out on some of those classic tapes, and that kind of grew my love for hip hop really. Um, yeah, and then I think I started out quite young, just in the UK hip hop scene. I kind of wasn't really looking at that when I first got into kind of like the music when I was a teenager, because a lot of us were into like drum and bass and dance music in the UK. So I actually started out rapping on drum and bass with my friends, in the party. Like we'd be DJing a lot, spinning vinyls, learning to DJ, and then it was only natural to try and rap on it. So I kind of started out as a drum and bass MC with my friends, but then because that's obviously quite high tempo, I knew that I wasn't really going to record that, and I knew that people didn't really listen to the lyrics. So I was like, right, I want to try and really write something, So that's what led me to try some stuff on hip hop. I mean, it was so long ago. I remember, like, I think I even had like a little weird, like American. I was like a little weird American accent as a kid, like trying to rap the lyrics because I heard all the tapes. But that quickly left me, and yeah, I just kind of don't know, started developing my own style by writing a lot myself. And I used to have like a little PC mic, and I just remember like I had this little mic, and I'd just be playing some old like Mos Def beats, and getting these early writtens out over these beats. And I remember one time like showing it to my boys, and they were like, "Yo, you got some talent and stuff." And that's kind of what pushed me. And then I guess things led from there really. So, but I came from that school of Onyx, these people like you're saying, all these '90s legends, and I think that was like the spirit that I tried to carry with what I was doing. I definitely am hip hop to the core when it comes to everything I'm doing. Even if I'm spitting on other beats that are different tempos, that is the school of hip hop that I think is like in my soul. That '90s classic, intelligent, when lyrics mattered and you had to be dope. The mumble rap thing never existed back then, but yeah, in a nutshell, kind of came from drum and bass, played on these other things, and now here we are. Yeah, I don't know.
And you also, you talk about the system sometimes, corruption, greed, ego. You even have an intro with David Icke in one of your tracks.
Oh yeah.
So you obviously have a lot of knowledge about like how the world works, the system, and all these kind of things. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about like the process of awakening to some of these realizations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't consider myself like a political guy or a political rapper or anything like that. I'm someone that just, I don't know. I think with my style, I tend to reflect on things that are around me, or things that, often it's like social commentary, So yeah, I mean, I think it all started like when I was a bit younger. It's that frustration and trying to figure out what's really going on, and then you go down these rabbit holes of information, and but when I was younger, I was quite into like watching a lot of conspiracy documentaries and stuff. And then I think when I got a little bit older, in terms of my style, I knew that I didn't really want to be that kind of artist necessarily, like someone that was a bit more heavily on that. So I think I just turned to things that were a little bit more like closer to me, or like personal things or realities I see, and I know frustrations I feel, rather than necessarily quoting a documentary about this and that. But yeah, like, I mean, not the craziest fan of David Icke, but he chats a lot of sense, and I think that skit that I took, he does chat a lot of sense, so I think that made sense for the Rat Race thing. But that song that you might be quoting, Rat Race, talking about the system, that is just from living in London, trying to make it. You do just feel sometimes like crabs in a bucket, trying to just get somewhere, and especially when you're younger and you've got to do whatever to get by, and you don't really have any good job prospects because you haven't built skills yet, and it can just feel like you can work really hard and not really have any time, not really have any money, and you're just trying to figure it out. So a lot of it is just frustration sometimes, but I guess the awakening, going back to what you're saying, is kind of just like a gradual process. Like, I've always, been into asking questions and the wonders of the universe, like as a kid and a teen. And I think that kind of imagination and wonder kind of just leads you to want to find more answers. And I think maybe that led me to want to express certain things. But the process is gradual. I'm still in the awakening now, man. I'm still trying to learn, still trying to figure out, and turning inward is also important. I like to meditate a lot and things like that, and I find that has a major benefit, like, on my life. So yes, ongoing, man. I don't know, ongoing thing.
Yeah. So how often do you meditate?
I try to meditate a few times a day if I can. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. At least 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just find with Sorry, you can.
No, I've been meditating quite a lot for like 12 years, and I see it definitely helps with creativity. You get ideas. Do you find the same? Like, when you meditate, you feel like you get more inspiration sometimes.
Yeah, it like clears. It does something where it like resets the brain. I find for me, especially with like everything we have technology wise, we're living in a time where just information is overloading our brains. Like, we're the guinea pigs for this. Like, the internet is new, phones are new, social media is new, and we're basically kind of the guinea pigs for that. So no one really knows the effects. And I find something like meditation is just like probably one of the only things that I find it really just helps like declutter all of that in your brain, because we take so much in, we store so much tension. Exercise is great for that, sleep obviously, but meditation for me, it kind of just gets rid of the clutter, and once you come out of it, you kind of realize the next important step, like it helps you prioritize and get on with the task, and that's important for consistency.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that worked for me was just spending some time in nature, especially like in London, you have a lot of parks. So, just having these walks in the parks.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You talked about mumble rap. I'm just curious, like, what do you think happened with like the mainstream hip hop? Because a lot has changed since the 90s, and the more I look into this stuff, the more I feel like it's almost like there is some kind of agenda to push certain individuals that are not extremely talented, but can do whatever the industry tells them to do. And about DMX, for example, was very open about how the industry works, right?
I mean, I think it was a tough act to follow for kids, right, coming up. So when the kids were coming up, the SoundCloud rappers that were young, it's not like it was probably quite extremely difficult for them to even try and spit on a level of what came before with the greatest people like Nas. All these, the bar was so high for rappers, and that's what we came from. That was our school. But a lot of these kids, I think they just were like they didn't. The beats shifted a bit, and they kind of focused more on like maybe the melody and the sound of it and the energy rather than the lyrics. And there's always this war between, you know, the lyrical guys and the mumble rappers. But I think personally, I really love the trap beats. I like trap beats. I like drill beats. I like Afro beat. I like all types of beats. It's just if you rap on it well, it's hip hop. But I think when people started just overdoing the auto tune and just mumbling it, it kind of gave a bad look to the trap sound. Even though the beats are good, it was just, and I don't know. There's definitely probably agendas within the industry where they do push dumbed down stuff. You know, they don't necessarily want to push something hyper intelligent because I don't know if everyone always wants to sometimes listen to that, you know, like they there's always been that throughout the history, like of the labels pushing something that was bubblegum, you know, bit throwaway and but so I don't know. I think some of the mumble stuff was probably like an organic thing of the kids just wanted to do something different and but somewhere along the line it kind of don't know, disrespected the core of hip hop a little bit when rappers don't rap. You know, when a rapper doesn't actually rap or feel like he cares about lyrics, that's when I think it created this big divide. And I don't know, man. Like I was saying, I like the beats. I like the beats. I like the energy. The energy is great. But I just can't really sit there and digest stuff that just isn't really saying anything, you know? I don't know. I don't know.
What do you think has changed over the last maybe 20 years, you know, like US, UK, and also like how do you compare UK and US hip hop scene now?
I would say in the last 20 years, in terms of the UK, I would say it's actually starting to enter the golden era now. And and the golden era in America, I think, was more in the 90s with that old school hip hop sound when everyone created these timeless, insanely good albums, right? But I feel like in the UK, a lot of us that rapped on the boom bap sound kind of got I don't know, we're stuck in this underground like bubble which didn't quite have the lane, you know. Whereas I feel like UK that 20-year span that rappers started using grime instead as a UK thing. You know, the UK rappers started jumping on grime beats, and well, it wasn't they didn't jump on it. It was birthed out of you know the inner cities and them experimenting with something in between garage and hip hop and you know legends like Dizzy Rascal, Wiley. They really pioneered a fresh sound, and that was really UK hip hop. Grime was UK hip hop, and for a while, I feel like the actual guys doing proper hip hop, old school hip hop, kind of got overlooked, and the grime guys actually got a lot of attention. But this has been going for a long time. Everyone's been putting in work, and now we're at a good point where there's all types of influences like drill, grime, trap, and it seems like the UK right now is like people are doing very well independently. People are getting good numbers. They're building good fan bases, and there seems to be a real good movement. And in the UK, it seems like everyone spits. Like you don't really get that many mumble rappers here at all. Like everyone really tends to be able to spit, and that's quite a good thing. Whereas I think in America, in the golden era in the 90s, obviously incredible albums, and in the 2000s, obviously there's the top level artists in the States, but somewhere in this last like 10 years or something, with the rise of mumble rap, I feel like they went further that way into the mumble rap commercial kind of thing, whereas I feel like the UK, they took some of those influences, but people still spat with the lyrics. So it's funny because I feel like it's kind of shifted. I feel like we were always so below the States. Like we just looked up to the States, and the States did it all. Like obviously they pioneered and they lead the way. But I feel like now the tables are turning a bit. Like even in America, the newest sounds are like someone like Pop Smoke, right? Who died, unfortunately, was murdered, but he got big rapping on UK drill beats. So a lot of these guys that are running the New York sound now, that are considered the innovative guys out there, they're just rapping on UK beats now. So it's kind of come a weird full circle where we weren't really taken seriously, I feel, for a while by the States and stuff. And, you know, now I think they're starting to notice that, you know, we're doing innovative stuff here. And yeah, I feel like it's a bit rawer in the UK. It's probably like, you know, it's a bit rawer. I think in the States, it's been such a big machine for so long with so much money that maybe it's tipped a little bit further over that side of, you know, maybe going a bit too mainstream. I don't know, but there's always good stuff in the underground. So yeah, kind of shifts really. It's going to be an interesting time. You know, the next 5 to 10 years, I think the UK is going to really hopefully solidify its, you know, place on the world stage with rap.
Hey guys, Mike here. Just a quick note. As some of you know, currently on the web there are some serious attempts to censor the information that do not fit the mainstream narrative. And we at Truth Fury have experienced that firsthand. We have been shadow banned, we have been demonetized, we even lost some of our accounts. So now more than ever, we need support from our followers and people like you. So we accept donations. If you want to help us out, just go to truthfury.com/donate and anything helps. We also accept cryptocurrencies. And we've been creating free content for the last 10 years. And our goal was always to just expand consciousness of humanity and raise awareness about important things. But it's becoming increasingly harder to do so. So any support helps. And, you know, thanks a lot for supporting us. And if you cannot help financially, that's not a problem. Maybe you can share our content on social media, share it with your friends. That always helps. And we are on all major platforms, so make sure you subscribe as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Just search for Truth Theory or Truth Theory Podcast and make sure you follow us or subscribe. And again, if you want to support us, just go to truththeory.com/donate. And now back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, you know, I lived in Chicago for 18 months around 2005, 2006. And I remember I used to listen to commercial radio stations, and every single one of them would play the same tracks. That they would have like 10 tracks, you know, like 50 Cent, Kanye West, you know, Ludacris, these kind of guys. And when I came to the UK, I started listening to radio. You know, that was like 2006 probably. Like I was just blown away with like so many styles, so many independent radio stations, and you know, artists, and everything was just completely different. So I think there is something, you know, just pushing commercial stuff a lot more in the US, as you said. Like, you know, the industry is just been there for longer. You know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they operate different out there. I do admire their hustle a lot. You know, I do admire their hustle. I mean, from being out there, they really do just get things done. You know, there's a much more of like a, oh, you say you want to do something, okay, let's go and do it. Whereas I think in the UK, sometimes people say they're going to do something and then it's like, oh, let's do it next week. Or not like people put stuff off here, because London obviously is one of the most innovative, hardworking cities in the world, arguably the top. But in terms of sometimes with the music, I think it's maybe a little bit more reserved in that sense of the hustle. You know, I don't know. America, they've got the business on lock when it comes to the music industry, but maybe that's kind of pushed it so far now where the kind of commercially mumble rap stuff has taken over. But I don't know, man.
So you're completely independent, right? You're not contracted with any labels or anything. What can you say about one versus the other? Like, what are the benefits, pros and cons of, like, doing everything on your own and versus, like, having a contract?
I mean, I've never had a contract, so I couldn't really say. But in terms of independent, I mean, it's kind of all I know because I had to kind of put myself on, really. No one was really going to do it, and no one was really helping me like that, And I was kind of carving my own style, my own thing. So I don't know. In terms from the independent standpoint, the when you do get the wins off your own back, they might feel a lot better because it's purely your work and stuff. But in terms of like budgets and stuff, you've got to fund that. And a lot of artists to fund stuff have to have another job or whatever to fund it because yeah, you might be able to make the music for cheap, but if you want to start doing competitive videos and consistently working on stuff, it costs money, So that's the thing, really. As an independent, you have to find a way to be able to facilitate your career when it's not giving you the same return. And often you can spend quite a lot on a video and it doesn't give you that same return. Looks great and it is important to get you to the next level, but it's just like a lot of businesses, and that it takes time for you to kind of like invest in the brand, build the brand, and then you kind of see it back. So yeah, I think independently a lot more work, but that's kind of how most of us operate here. And I think as well, like up and coming people, I'm not sure about in the States, but especially with the rise of social media and being able to run advertising yourself, and that's enabled artists. It's like independent became a thing, I think it was frowned upon before, but then now with the rise of like Instagram, all these things, a lot of people like kind of they're proud to be independent, but it's a lot of work, especially when you have no manager, you have no investment and all these things. Like nothing moves without your investment and time and hard work. So yeah, but if you love this, then the work is justified, right? So yeah, not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I believe that marketing very often is, some people say 50% of success for artists. What do you think about that? I noticed there are a lot of people who are great at marketing, pushing, appearing in the right places in the right time, all this kind of stuff. And they're not necessarily great talents, We see a lot of people who maybe sometimes are extremely good, but you haven't heard about them, in the mainstream, for example. So what do you think about, like, marketing? What's your strategy as well? Like, do you put a lot of effort into it?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. Like so many times, I mean, I feel slept on, definitely, but I'm definitely putting work in to make sure that I'm getting my stuff out there and, investing money into marketing budgets to advertise. And so I feel like there's some people that are crazy and do insane things with the marketing. So if you think about someone like 6ix9ine, who is like the troll of hip hop, his whole thing was like a marketing plan. He was like, it was like one of the smartest, but also one of the dumbest kind of, like he went straight to the top, but also almost went straight to the bottom so quickly. But his whole thing was like the shock factor marketing. But if you're talking about an independent artist like me who just tries to keep it real and do me, yeah, I think in order to get your music out there, you have to know a bit about marketing. So you have to know about Facebook advertising, YouTube advertising, you know, you have to think about where you're going to invest your money. I generally think online advertising is probably the best spend, but you know, you can invest in PR companies, radio, you know, but in terms of for someone like myself, you know, often I'm just trying to build my own channel, you know, my own thing. So really, yeah, I'll save my money to invest in, you know, making sure that I can get my stuff shown in front of the right people. So, you know, you might put a bit of money into a YouTube or your Facebook and make sure that it's going in front of your target audience, so knowing who your audience is, or you might retarget people that have already been watching your stuff and you get a better conversion. So I'm quite on it with this kind of stuff. But yeah, like I was saying, it depends. You know, some people, their whole brand is like the marketing thing, whereas maybe I'm a bit more low key with it and more about the music. So it's just a case of like making good quality product. And then, yeah, I think a lot of these things, it's like a long-term thing. You've just got to keep learning from every punch that you take and then apply that to your next thing. And I think a lot of it sometimes is the delivery of your product, because you can be unknown with the greatest album ever, but people might never really hear it, even if it's great, you know? So sometimes I think like the game's shifted into more of a singles thing where you're probably better off splitting the album up into like 12 singles and just dropping it as 12 songs, man. If you want to get maximum reach, that's probably better for you. It might not be better for the catalog because you might not have the album there, but in terms of how the game works now, you've kind of just got to take each hit, learn from it, and keep going. So I don't know. I think you just got to use the internet to your advantage and learn these platforms and try and figure it out. Again, I'm still learning. Marketing is very important, though. Very important.
Yeah. For example, you know, Tim Ferriss, this guy who wrote 4 Hour Work Week. So it was like this personal development book. Yeah, he basically was on the list of bestsellers for like 7 years with this book, and he, you know, he shares a lot of the tips he was using to promote the book, like making connections with bloggers before, you know, like a whole strategy and everything. And I feel like, you know, no one would actually probably read that without all the marketing side. And he also talks about like, not sure like what's the ratio, but I think he was saying something like 70 or 50% was marketing in this case, you know. So I think it's just extremely important, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unfortunately, like there's however many songs released a day on the internet. It's becoming increasingly hard to be heard amongst the noise, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of us work really hard and feel slept on sometimes, you know, and it's like, but you just got to figure out what's working and what, you know, and the game's always changing. So for example, when you heard my early stuff, which might have been the 2014 releases, the Rat Race and Hip Hop Philosophy, I actually did that without without investing in paid advertising. I did that by building a buzz through the blogs and building kind of like a friends list and getting everyone to share it back then. But the organic reach was much better, and even sharing YouTube links on Facebook was much better. But they're competitors, Google and Facebook, so they don't want you sharing YouTube links now and all that stuff. So I mean, even then it's changed a lot, like to now where it's a bit more of a paid advertising game. Back then you could kind of build a bit more of a buzz on the blogs, but that's changed a bit. You know, blogs have kind of died down a bit compared to then, where it's now become a bit more of like the blog is more of like a channel or these kind of things, you know. The blogosphere kind of died down a bit, didn't it? After, I don't know, maybe I think now because of all just it's so focused on the socials, it's become more of like a like the blogs that would usually kind of get everyone to the site. Now they might be turning into like YouTube channels where like Adam22 or Vlad TV and things like that. They're kind of like, I wouldn't say they're necessarily blogs, but you know, they kind of like talk a lot about the hip hop culture, and it's like people take it in a little bit more visually sometimes, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the way social media works changed so much. It's harder for things to go viral. And I think you used to have a lot more reach like a couple of years ago. And now everything is saturated, you know, it's like tons of content. And they also manipulate algorithms. So you pay, you know, if you want to get seen and all these kind of stuff. Do you think there is actually a formula for something to go viral, like these days, especially? Do you think, you know, why certain artists go viral, for example? You know,
I think it's a hard one to say with music, but there is. I mean, people like I was saying, some people's their whole brand is the shock factor, and so someone like Tekashi 69, he is just like a viral artist. You know, his whole thing was just like shock factor. Who is this rainbow haired guy in the hood around all these guys? Like, how has he got the pass? All this, and that kind of, he knew what he was doing, but I think for someone like him, his whole thing was the viralness. But once, but really, I feel like the longevity is probably more important, because say if you had a few big years and then people got bored of your whole tactic, then the guy who was just quietly rising for 15 years, he's going to do better in the long run. So I don't know, man. I think everyone wants to go viral, but it's like, what do you do once you become viral? Like, you need to make sure you have a catalog and you're ready to go, and you don't want to just blow up on TikTok and have one song on the internet, because then there's nothing. I think what I've been learning lately is it's all good having this visibility and having these views and being seen and people knowing your name. It's about marketing funnels, isn't it? It's about turning them from, oh, I've just found this guy, he's dope, to becoming a fan that actually buys your merch and wants to come to the show, and they're avid supporters. That's the thing a lot of artists maybe struggle with, and it's something that, you know, I'm still definitely trying to learn, because, you know, over the years it's like you can get that awareness, but it's kind of about owning that fan base and nurturing that fan base, and I think that's like the important thing in the long run, you know.
Yeah, it's also, you know, sometimes like I've noticed with your tracks, like I could listen to them several times over the years and I still enjoy them. Like sometimes, you know, you hear a new track 10 times and that's it. You don't want to listen to it anymore. Initially, it sounds really good, but you get bored of it very quickly. And it's really hard to do something that, you know, you can keep coming back to over and over, right?
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. I mean, I guess I'm not. I think it's just the kind of art you might make. Really, some people maybe just make quick hit that kind of hits for now. But some, I think the era that we maybe come from, when you talk about the artists that you used to listen to, a lot of that is timeless. You know, it's like it's just raw expression, and it's about the art and the craft. Like, I really care about the craft. Like, I'm about the craft rather than the gimmick, whereas some people are more about the gimmick and the shock thing or the craziness over the art. So I don't know. Maybe it's like, as a writer, some people might be a bit more poetic and there's a bit more layering in the lyrics, and then it's got a bit more replay value. Like, you know, we still go back to Illmatic now and say it's the greatest hip hop album of all time, and I think it's like over 25 years old. So I think generally with good music, it doesn't have a lifespan. You know, like, I think I only heard Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon like a couple of years ago, and that's a 70s record, and I remember just being like blown away, like the chills from listening to that. It's like I didn't even really get that from some like hip hop records. It's like, and that's like a, you know, that was released before I was born, you know. So I think just good music is timeless. But I don't know. There's always a dilemma, especially with hip hop now. It's like it's all good, kind of doing a lot of throwback stuff, but you need to make sure that you can evolve your style and be able to spit on different kind of things and bring that essence to it in order to progress. Because yeah, I think the evolution is important, but the maybe the timelessness maybe comes from the kind of like that soul and integrity that you try to put in your lyrics, and maybe the depth. If you care about lyrics, then it has replay value, I think, you know. Whereas if you just have a bit of a basic thing, then it is what it is. Like the vibe will basically be the timelessness if the lyrics aren't. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's, you know, just like when we were talking about these albums from the 90s, they were like so extremely passionate about everything, you know, the lifestyle, and that was so honest. And now, you know, sometimes like people come with intentions, you know, this is what's currently trending, whatever, you know, let's do something like this, or, you know, so you kind of have a different motivation, and you are not really putting, you know, the whole effort and soul into it as much as, you know, when you are living the whole thing, you know.
Yeah, I think maybe, but especially back in the 90s, like it was pop kind of, but like that was the current sound, say what we call throwback kind of stuff, you know, the 90s hip hop. But now obviously hip hop's changed a bit and you've got different types of beats. But like I was saying, I really like trap beats. I love trap beats. I love grime. I love drill beats. I like the beats. They make me want to rap, but it's just what people do on them dictates if it's going to be hip hop or not. So for me, if you hear me on a trap beat, like I've just been dropping, you might think it's hip hop, you know, and I think everything I do is hip hop, but I'm showing you that you can kind of evolve it a bit. I mean, people have been doing this, but yeah, I mean, for example, you've got Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. They spit on a range of styles, but it's hip hop because of the way they're so good with the pen, and they just you know that they really represent the culture. But then you might hear a different type of rapper that does more chanting and mumbling on a similar beat, and you'd be like, it's mumble, or it's like it's the death of hip hop. So the lines have become blurred, man, because especially in the UK, it seems like most of the rappers are rapping on all different types of styles. You know, they're rapping on grime, trap, drill, Afrobeat, garage, you know, drum and bass. So yeah, I feel like before, and maybe in the 90s, the traditional hip hop sound was it like that beat, and it always will go back to that. But now hip hop's changed a bit. I feel like maybe it's just the essence you bring on these beats, you know, because I think it's just part of hip hop's evolution. I mean, I don't know if anyone realized how long this culture, you know, of hip hop was going to be around for, but it's still going ridiculously strong today. And I think when it first surfaced back in the day, maybe some of the rock and roll heads and people like that thought it was going to be a flash in the pan, but like it goes to show, you know, people rapping on beats, it's got a lot of integrity and it's got a lot of longevity, you know.
What do you think about the club scene? Like, do you think it changed a lot? I was actually listening to an interview with a woman who was a manager of Wu-tang Clan, and she's now like 50 or something, and she was saying how much everything changed in the last 30 years. You know, she was saying like she remembers that when we were going to a hip hop party, you could have, you know, graffiti artists, b-boys, everything, like the whole culture was there. And now, you know, it's about VIP booth, you know, buying a bottle of whatever, vodka and chicks wearing short skirts and, you know, being cool. What do you think about it?
Maybe that's the commercial side maybe took over with that club scene. I mean, I was never one of those guys that went to the West End clubs and popped the bottles with the sparklers, and that was never me, man. But I think I was maybe a bit, I don't think I was old enough to be around when it really was about the explosion of hip hop, which I kind of wish I was around then, because, you know, when I hear about it back in the day, funny you were talking about the club scene, because so before the internet, before a lot of these things, you had to go out to the clubs and the events to see the culture, you know? So I feel like I think the internet killed that a bit. I'll be honest. I feel like now, like everyone's for themselves. There, you know, you can't just walk down the street and see ciphers and breakdancing. And you know, before hip hop was obviously about graffiti, breakdancing, all these things, and it was like a communal thing. And like I think just that element has been lost over the years, man. And that, you know, when you're going back to that kind of wild style days where it was the early New York, it just looked incredible. It really looked like it must have done amazing things, you know, for the city and the people. And it would have been everyone would have just wanted to get involved. But I think, yeah, now it's like, it just seems a bit like that. It even seems like some of the scenes have like, obviously pre-COVID, COVID's changed a lot of things, but the scenes have, you know, they're like kind of small as well. It's like, before there was probably a lot more like hip hop nights. You just go down and rap, whereas now there's only a few. And sometimes it feels like the scene is just the people that have the biggest buzz online and that can draw the biggest crowd. So some of these label collectives have quite big buzzes, and when you go to their events, they're like big turnouts and good vibes, but you don't really get that same thing for just the average open mic nights and things like that, you know. So I think the internet kind of, I think, killed that communal get together, breakdance, graffiti, rap. Yeah, I don't know. So maybe that. And then with the club scene, the thing is though, in the UK it's different, because in terms of when I talk about the club scene, I grew up in the drum and bass raves. Like I came from going to the raves, getting out of your head, dancing for, and so it was like a lot of club nights we went to were like drum and bass and dance music and stuff. So yeah, I kind of think that's how in the UK the club scene is kind of that. Like there's a lot of DJs playing like, you know, bass music and stuff, and you get the MCs to be hosting that and rapping on that. So I think that's where grime came from as well, and that's why it's such high energy and it's designed for the clubs and stuff. But in America, I think it's different, you know. Like EDM in America is what they call electronic music, and I think it's a whole different thing over there. Whereas here, I think the kind of dance music culture was a bit bigger and more accessible than the hip hop culture. So yeah, so it was like that's where the garage music, drum and bass, all these kind of things, you know, you'd be going to these clubs and it'd be that kind of thing. But in terms of the popping bottles in the club and all that stuff and listening to hip hop music, that'll be more the clubs that people go to like meet girls and stuff like that. You know, guys dress up smart in this stuff, and then they spend £1,000 on the table and like champagne, and then they're playing commercial hip hop. So it's kind of different sides. But I think in America, it's I think the change of hip hop in the clubs would have been a lot more evident, you know, than it is here. Yeah.
Hey guys, Mike here. Just a quick note. I'm currently offering one-to-one mentoring and coaching through our Patreon page. So as some of you know, I've been interested in personal development for 15 to 17 years. And during this time, I really spent enormous amounts of energy into researching and practicing different techniques. So I'm offering one-to-one video calls through Patreon, and this is really affordable as well. So, you know, some of the things that I can help with are to do with starting an online business, building personal brand, increasing happiness, improving mental and physical health, stress reduction, building confidence and self-esteem, finding your passion, discovering your life purpose, spiritual development and going through spiritual awakening, and many other things. So check it out. It's patreon.com/Truth Theory. It's patreon.com/Truth Theory. And now back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, London used to have such a variety of clubs and parties, and you think it's changing over the last maybe 10 years? We don't see some of these like underground independent hip hop parties or concerts.
Well, especially now, like after COVID, I'm not sure how it's going to look when we come out of this, but yeah, I mean, quite a few clubs have shut down over the last 10 years, but there's always a big nightlife scene. But like I was saying, the scene here is more geared towards dance music, whereas the hip hop scene here that I've been involved in has definitely been a lot more underground, So it's like more underground nights, and they're just like more smaller scale, set up by independent promoters, and they kind of come and go. But I think I was a little bit young to kind of be involved in the scene before it changed, because I think maybe if I was 5 years younger and active in the scene, then I probably would have seen the other side of it, where there was nights a lot. Like some people I know, they're saying like there was nights, every week, a few nights a week, like with hip hop nights, drum and bass events, and all sorts of stuff, and you'd always be out and about at that. But yeah, I think, like I was saying, with the rise of the internet and stuff, that slightly changed things, and yeah, I think unfortunately, I think it might have had, like kids didn't have to go outside their house to find out what was going on. Now they could just kind of be on their phone and scroll around, and I think that killed it slightly. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your view about, obviously, like looking into what's happening, we have a lot of artists, I would say in the past you had, fewer but of higher quality. Now it's probably, we're getting flooded with tons of artists, and it's harder to find people that are really like extremely talented. So I think it's really important, to have this relationship with your fans, because, you are no one without your fans. So we like people like you need the support of your fans, especially when you are independent, and all these things. How can, how can your fans support people like you, Like what are things you could, tell them, like, obviously sharing stuff.
Yeah, I think it could go as far as just like liking, subscribing, commenting, telling a friend about the artist you love, buying tickets to their gigs, buying their merch. I think that's really what everyone wants from fans. Really, if they support you financially, that's great. If not, if they just support you on your channels or help spread the word. I mean, word of mouth is important. Like if they tell their friends, yo, this guy Parallax, this rapper from London, like he's really dope, boom, 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 and then they pass it on, then that's a good thing. So I think, yeah, there's levels to it, but if anyone breaks bread and if anyone actually invests any money into what I'm doing by like buying a ticket or buying merch, then that's like really appreciated. That's like, means a lot. But even just someone leaving a comment saying, "I love your music," I don't take it for granted. You know, that these are sometimes the things that make it worth it. You know, some people have sent me messages saying that like my music has helped them like get through really tough times, or it saved their life or whatever, and those kind of things are like, I think they're sometimes the fuel you need to really justify the hard work without the financial return. You know, so I don't know, man. Yeah, I think that's it. Any support is appreciated, but yeah, those things previously mentioned, good deeds from the fans.
What would you say was your biggest accomplishment so far from your career?
I mean, I'll probably have to say going to LA, doing a video with Rakaa from Dilated Peoples, because that was definitely the biggest achievement, because it was a real manifestation. I was a little kid, you know, detached from these guys, like listening, like a big fan of Dilated Peoples as a kid growing up. And back then I was like, I'm never even gonna, I'll never even probably be able to see them at a gig or anything. I was just like, it seems so far away, you know, like, I never thought I'd ever come into contact with them. And then I think just as things change, and one of the benefits of the internet was I was fortunate enough to be able to reach out to artists, and I think, you know, I just sent like a really early freestyle I did, and it got the attention of Rakaa, and then I think I just worked on that relationship, and then eventually we recorded something together, and then we ended up doing a video, and then even better, I did a gig in LA last year supporting Necro and Madchild, and Rakaa actually came out to the show to do my track with him. So things like that were just like it was just proof that what you imagine and what you want can become reality once you let time pass. You know, like this was stuff that was just in my head. Like I never thought it was possible, but I actually just manifested it and wanted to work towards it, and then it became a reality. And like I said, like those kind of things really, it really justifies the work, because it was just perform your track with Rakaa and stuff. Yeah, I'd be like, that I've made it. But you know, you do this and it's like,
Yeah, awesome. Do you think, you know, I've heard something from, you know, like for example, I was in touch with a guy who is like a Hollywood producer in the US, and he was saying that, you know, like anything with British accent is not, you know, gonna get big approval in the US. Do you think that actually British accent is some kind of barrier for music, for hip hop, especially when we're talking about like US?
like, yeah. I mean, I definitely know that over the years, especially in America, like I don't think they've taken it so seriously. I feel like now they're starting to get it, but I think it wasn't just the accent. It was like they didn't understand the culture here so much. You know, it was like they didn't they didn't really understand it. You know, I think, and now with the internet and with a lot of, they can understand it. They can watch Top Boy and things like that and see what's going on here with the streets and all these things, and they can get a little bit more of an understanding of the dialects, the accents, and uh, I feel like that barrier that we're just talking about with the accent, that's getting less and less. But I always think it is, has always been a thing maybe with the UK, because they associate the UK with the Queen and tea. You know, just they have a warped idea of England. I mean, they don't really. Some Americans don't even know where England is on the map. You know, a lot of America's such a big place. Some people don't need to think outside of it, so it's almost so far away. It's hard to understand for them. But the accent thing has definitely got less, and a lot of. I mean, even now, people are starting to like even take our slangs and say it. I mean, look at Drake. I mean, he's not American; he's Canadian, and Canadians have they do have a similar thing to us. But you know, he's wanted to be English for as long as I can remember. Like, you've just heard him on a drill tune. He's been speaking English slang this whole time, and I honestly think Drake has been a big help in bridging the gap between America and the UK, because he's one of the biggest artists in the world, if not arguably the biggest hip hop artist in the game. But he's Canadian, so it's slightly different. He gets it a bit more with the UK, and he's definitely been constantly supporting the UK scene and repping it, and I think he's definitely helped, break that barrier down. But yeah, I think as an American, maybe if they first heard it, it might be just too weird, and they'd be like, can't take it seriously. But I don't know, times are changing. But I would say one thing: it is very fortunate to be a UK artist as well, because if I was from somewhere else in Europe, for example, say France, or where, even though France has a massive hip hop scene, I can't understand it. I can't understand it when someone raps in French, and neither can anyone else, other than French people. But I love the flow and I love the music, but I just can't understand the lyrics. Whereas with the UK, we're fortunate enough that it is English, so maybe there's an accent thing, but Americans can actually understand our culture through the lyrics because we're speaking it clear to you. Maybe they might not get the slangs, but the message can translate, which is a fortunate thing being based in Europe and the UK, where some other countries kind of struggle with the actual language barrier. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, I remember even in the 90s, we used to listen to French hip hop and we didn't understand anything. It's just the flow and, the sounds and everything.
Yeah, I love NTM, NTM and I Am. And yeah, I can respect it, but like I was saying, I can't understand it. So it does, it changes the listening experience, and it probably makes it harder to understand the culture of it a little bit in terms of what they're saying about their cities and their struggles. Yeah. But I love the accent, especially the French accent with hip hop. It really flows. And their hip hop scene has been a lot bigger than ours. But now it's changing. Like we're going to dominate, I think.
So what are your plans for the next year? You just released a new single a month ago, Undefeated, right? Are you planning a whole album, or?
I think I thought about slightly switching up my approach, and I'm thinking about just dropping a run of singles for a while. Like, I'm sitting on a lot of music and then a few different styles. So I think the plan is just to drop singles a bit more frequently for the fans and the people. So you got more music on a regular basis, and then bring the project next year sometime maybe. But I think, yeah, I just wanted to change the approach slightly because I've done a few projects before, and I think now I'm looking to maybe just give people more singles for a while, different flavors, and build the buzz and momentum, and then give the project to people when things are a little bit more buzzing and a bit more in the right place. The internet's changed it a bit. I know that if I just drop another album like that, you can only promote it for so long and then you move on. So I'm thinking about changing the approach slightly. And some of the stuff I've done recently with some of these crossover singles has just been stuff of that. So yeah, you will get another project, but I think for a while I'm just going to give you little singles for a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
Go and stream Undefeated at Parallax Official TV. Add me on Instagram, Parallax Official, Facebook, Parallax Official. That's it, man. And look out for more Parallax material. I've got a lot of bangers coming. That's about it, really.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Pleasure, man. Thank you for bringing me on.
Yeah, man. Really big respect for everything you've been doing, all those years. And you're not changing. You're evolving, but not like going commercial or anything like that. I always have a lot of respect for artists that are just trying to keep it underground, real, It's been amazing.
I really appreciate you. Sorry to cut you off. I really appreciate your support, and it means a lot. It's good. It's good to know that the hard work resonates with people like yourself, and I'll continue to represent that realness. And thanks again for the opportunity, man. And shouts to Truth Theory, because you guys have been supporting me from early, and it was a good look. And again, I really appreciate that. And salute. Keep doing your thing. Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for checking out this Truth Theory podcast episode. Until next time.